Hey, welcome to my talk. I will talk about Jenkins as a code. So my name is Łukasz Szczęsny. I work as a software engineer or site reliability engineer at Uber. We have an office in Vilnius, and we are hiring. So keep it in mind. I'm a long Jenkins user. I was using Jenkins for a long time since it was called Hudson. Then they rebranded to Jenkins. I'm free and open source and open hardware lover, and I'm also a co-organizer of Warsaw Linux user group. So whenever you are in Warsaw, just if you want to talk about Linux and stuff, just let me know. We'll organize a meetup or a beer or something like that. Okay, so what I will cover in this talk. So I will start with manual Jenkins maintenance, and I will describe all the burden which Jenkins there's a huge burden if you have to manage Jenkins manually. I will talk later. I will switch to how to treat our jobs in Jenkins as a code. I will jump a bit to the infrastructure as a code, and I will present you a case study from my previous company where we developed the whole continuous delivery library for microservices. Okay, so let's start with manual Jenkins maintenance. Do we have any Jenkins users here? Oh my, yeah, okay, that's a lot. So do you like clicking in UI in Jenkins? Do you like Jenkins UI? Who likes Jenkins UI? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like at least 5 people in the whole room. So yeah, Jenkins when you have to configure Jenkins manually via UI, it's super slow, it's error prone, and it's unbelievably boring when you have, for example, to change, I don't know, SCM URL in some projects. It will take you hours and hours. And it doesn't scale. It's super hard when you have few jobs and dozens of plugins, and it's mission impossible with several microservices deployed in several countries for multiple products using deployments pipeline with several steps each, which gives you few hundreds of jobs on Jenkins instance. So we faced this issue in my previous company, and we decided to automate everything from installing Jenkins to job configuration. Everything should be automated. So let's start with jobs as code. So there's a plugin called Jenkins Job DSL. Have you heard this? Anybody on the audience who heard using Jenkins Job DSL? We have one person. Okay, so Jenkins Job DSL consists of 2 parts. Basically, it's a domain-specific language for creating jobs in Jenkins, and there's separate part. It's a Jenkins plugin itself, which transforms this DSL language to real jobs in Jenkins, from DSL to XML, basically. So this is, as I said, this is Groovy-based DSL. It can create jobs, views, dashboards, everything. It can configure everything for you. And the most important part of it is that you develop it as a normal code. You can open your favorite IDE, import a Groovy project, and you have all things like auto-completion, type checking, automating testing, and all the Groovy magic you need to write your Jenkins jobs. And the most important thing, it lives outside Jenkins instance. So you just put it into your SCM. You treat it as code. You have tests. You have automatic builds, as we heard before on the talk. You have releases and stuff like that. So you treat your Jenkins jobs as a separate project, which is versionable, which is buildable and testable. Okay, so let's take a look at super simple DSL example. So imagine imagine that Topconf has GitHub repository where they put their site, and you would like to deploy it every 15 minutes somewhere. So imagine clicking this job in Jenkins. You have to go to UI, create new job, click SCM, find the correct tab where you put the URL of the SCM, then configure branch, and then you have to think this is the correct field, I put the branch, then you're clicking help, which the window is sliding away, you cannot see anything on there, and it's super hard. So you spend 15 minutes configuring this job, and in Jenkins DSL, it's I don't know, less than 10 lines, less than 15 lines of code. So what we do here? So we start with job. This is the job name. This job will be created Topconf website publish. We are configuring our SCM, so we will use GitHub. That's all. We want to build this website and deploy this website every 15 minutes. So we have triggers every 15 minutes. We are triggering for the new changes. And we have 2 steps. So we are making directory in SRV directory, and we are running Gradle with publish task. That's all you need to create a job. No more clicking, no more stress about like that you have to go to UI and click another job and stuff like that. But if you want to do something more sophisticated, let's imagine that we have a mobile app repository as well for Topconf, and you would like to create a job, separate job for each branch on a GitHub repository. So let's imagine like one job we can click in UI, but like if we have like 20 branches and we would like to build for 20 branches, and you want to create a jobs for 20 branches, like copy paste the job, it's impossible. So basically we can use Groovy Magic, which is embedded in Jenkins Job DSL. So basically we are getting all the list of the branches from GitHub, and for each branch we are creating the same job. So this is pretty easy. We are reusing code. We are not repeating stupid. We don't have to act like stupid robots, copy pasting stuff from one job to another job. Okay. So Jenkins Job DSL has a super comprehensive support for Jenkins core stuff. You can do everything like SCMs, triggers, publishers. You can put what else is in Jenkins? Publishers, all the steps which are in core Jenkins, like shell script, Gradle, Maven, and stuff like that. And it has extensive support for additional plugins. If you use any additional plugins, you can be almost sure that it's supported by Jenkins Job DSL. It was almost 200 plugins for version 1.47, and the community is very active, very vibrant, and there's a continuous flow of new pull requests, and core developers of Jenkins Job DSL are very eager to accept new pull requests. So if Job DSL lacks support for your favorite plugin, just create a pull request. I'm sure that it will be accepted, and it will improve the Jenkins Job DSL community. But if you don't want to create a pull request, there is a super powerful configuration block. So basically, whatever is possible in XML in Jenkins, you can put in Job DSL. So if you have some super old plugins, like 20 years old plugin created by somebody in your company, and you don't want really to show it to outside world, you just can use configuration block to configure your XML inside Job DSL. So everything is possible with Job DSL when it goes about jobs. Let's talk a bit about Jenkins plugin. So so let's imagine that we have finally this repository. We wrote all our jobs. How to create those jobs on Jenkins instance? So first we have to install Jenkins job plugin on Jenkins instance, and we have to create a seed job. This job you will have to create manually or automatically by your configuration management software. And the seed job will take your repository, will parse all the Groovy files where you created your jobs, and it will create the Jenkins jobs itself on Jenkins instance. So it will also, you can configure it this way that, for example, if you have, it's idempotent. So already if you have jobs configured and the job configuration hasn't been changed in the source code repository, it will not be updated. If you remove the job definition from your repository, it will be removed if you configure it this way. If you update the job configuration in your repository, it will be updated as well on Jenkins instance. So no worries whatsoever. Okay, so I'm talking about the Jenkins Job DSL. I really like Jenkins Job DSL. So what about those benefits? Let's summarize the benefits. So source code instead of XML and UI. Like who prefer XML editing than like Groovy DSL? I've never met anybody who said that. So we have a single source of truth for all our jobs in Jenkins environment. We can have multiple Jenkins master, even per team. We can have one repository which stores all our jobs. Code will be reviewed, code will be tested, code will be versioned. Yes. And everything will be testable, as I said. So Jenkins Job DSL, you can write unit tests. So for example, if you take sample project, Jenkins Job DSL Gradle project from Jenkins CI.io, it will create unit tests, simple unit tests. So basically, when you run tests, all the jobs will be created. XMLs will be created in your project root, and you can check all the XMLs outputs of all your jobs. And you can write unit tests, for example, if the generated XML or part of the XML is okay for you, right? If that's what you expected. And it's super scalable. So hundreds of jobs, you can create hundreds of jobs in seconds. But you can also remove hundreds of jobs in seconds as well. But I remember the story like in one of my colleagues had a simple job. He was about to remove 4 jobs from Jenkins. They were created manually back in the days. So yeah, we asked him to remove them. And he didn't want to, of course, to go to UI and click remove job and then yes. So he wrote a Groovy script and executed a Groovy script. But in the if statement, he misplaced exclamation mark. So instead of removing all 4 jobs, he removed every job except those 4. Yeah, so we ended up without functioning Jenkins. He removed even our seed jobs. So we get back to our working Jenkins instance in less than 5 minutes using job DSL. So we recreated the seed job. We were using Ansible back in the days. Ansible recreated seed job, and seed job recreated all the jobs, all the pipelines. One thing we didn't think about this before the outage, it was that we used build IDs in versions, and it was a really bad idea. Because when you lost all the history, when you remove the Jenkins job, you lose all the history of build IDs. So then we had to go through the jobs, some jobs manually for some services, and set the next job ID, build number ID, just to match our versioning. But it's not so sweet as it can look like. There are some drawbacks and limitations. There is a quite steep learning curve. It requires a lot of time to get into it, and it can come hard to understand when it's getting really complex. For example, when you're creating delivery pipelines with Jenkins job DSL. And as I said, small error in DSL can remove some or all jobs, but everything can be easily recreated. And like the biggest drawback for me, because I'm operations guy. I'm more operations guy than developer guy. So it's not suitable for global Jenkins configuration. So for example, if you want to add a new tool like Maven, Gradle, or whatever, or new JDK, you cannot do it in job DSL, unfortunately. OK, the next part about jobs as a code is Jenkins pipeline. Anybody heard about Jenkins pipeline? It's a new plugin from CloudBees. They recently open sourced Jenkins pipeline plus their visualization plugin. So basically, it's a built-in support for delivery pipelines in Jenkins 2.x. They finally redesigned everything around pipelines. They open sourced their solution, which was StageView plugin before. This now it's called pipeline plugin. So you also have, it allows you to build your pipelines, delivery pipelines as a code. So how delivery pipelines looked in Jenkins 1.x? You just had a bunch of jobs which were like triggering each another. So my job finished, I will trigger another job, this job will trigger another job. And you had some kind of plugins which could imitate like real delivery pipelines views that you have like, do you remember these views from pipeline, like these green boxes on huge green background? Yeah, it looks terrible. So they redesigned it, and everything is defined as a code as well. So basically, what it means that you can have one single Jenkins file in your repository. You put your pipeline definition there. I will show in a second how it looks. And just create a new pipeline job in Jenkins, point it to your repository, and that's all. Your pipeline will be created. No more clicking, no more debugging why my one job didn't trigger my another job and stuff like that. So how it looks. For example, this is a super simple example of Jenkins pipeline. It consists of 2 stages. So in first stage, we will check out the repository, and another stage we will publish. So basically, this is like 2 steps of pipeline. If you have like traditional software development, you can have like build, test, and next stage will be like deploy to QA, deploy to prod, whatever. So basically, you also define all the pipelines as a code. I don't have too much experience with Jenkins pipeline because we were using Jenkins DSL for that. But it's worth checking out if you are using delivery pipelines in Jenkins. You can also like, do you remember how hard it was in the beginnings to use Docker on Jenkins? And this way, it's like with pipeline plugin, it's like super simple. You want to build something inside Docker container, you just creating Docker image, you specifying image, and inside the container, you are executing stages. It's like super simple. It's very simple. You can leverage all the Docker, everything, every good stuff which Docker gives you to like separation and stuff like that in your Jenkins pipelines. It's really awesome. You have to check it out. Okay, so what's the heck? What should you use Jenkins DSL or should you use Jenkins pipeline plugin? So Jenkins DSL has some pros as well as cons. The same goes about pipeline plugin. But Jenkins DSL has much wider support for plugin. Like if you go there, as I said, it was like 200 plugins supported in version 1.47. But pipeline plugin catches up. And about Jenkins DSL, it's better testability outside Jenkins instance. I just then can take the job DSL code and run it outside Jenkins instance. It's unfortunately, I don't know how to do it with Jenkins pipeline plugin. And it's not only for pipelines. You can create all the jobs you want. You can also use job DSL for creating pipeline jobs. So you can have like your code which create pipeline jobs which will create pipelines in your Jenkins instance. And it's more mature project. It's like for a few years already, and Jenkins pipeline was released just last year, I guess, together with Jenkins 2.0. But pipeline plugin is a flagship product of Jenkins 2. It's supported directly by CloudBees, so you get support from the author of Jenkins. And it was created with continuous delivery in mind. So we have pipelines as code, we have super eye-catchy, nice visualization, and we have durability. That if we use this plugin, you can be sure that it's supported by CloudBees, and it will be still there, right? If you decide to go with Jenkins pipeline, and its popularity is increasing all over the time. Okay, so we have those jobs in the repository. Everything is versioned, everything is testable, everything is reviewed, and so on. So what about infrastructure? Do we have any infrastructure guys here? No? Nobody? Okay. So let's quickly go through infrastructure. What challenges do we face when we go about infrastructure and Jenkins? So first, we have to install Jenkins master. We have to install all the dependencies, install and configure all the plugins, install and configure all JDKs which are used in the company. Create all the slaves, connect those slaves to Jenkins masters, configure authentication, configure credentials, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of steps. It's like you don't just get like var from the internet and run java minus jar, Jenkins jar, and it will work. It's not like that. If you want to have like super nice infrastructure, super scalable, and very, very, very robust Jenkins infrastructure, it's not so easy as downloading a jar and running it on command line in Screen or Tmax. What I was using for, what you can use for managing your infrastructure for Jenkins. So all the configuration management tools like Ansible, Puppet, Chef, SaltStack, whatever, you can, together with Groovy console and Jenkins CLI, you can create awesome Jenkins environment which will be managed automatically. We had Jenkins installation, which were like we can spin new Jenkins installation, new master with slaves with one click using Ansible, basically. So we were using Groovy and Jenkins CLI for that, for managing, like, for example, seed jobs. As I mentioned before, there's one special job for Jenkins DSL which will create all the other jobs. So this job had to be created somehow. So we used Ansible for creating the seed job, which will create all the pipelines. But there's a project ongoing. It's called System Config DSL plugin. It was started by Koszuka during his winter break or something. And it's meant to create a Jenkins job DSL counterpart for Jenkins infrastructure. Like, for example, if you want to add new credentials for Jenkins, you can do it as a code as well. It's worth checking out. It's still in like super early beta stage. It's not working at all, almost. But yeah, there's a discussion on Jira, on Jenkins Jira. You can vote for this functionality. You can comment. Okay, so as I said, I had also a lot of issues with slave management. How to, like, if you want to have multiple slaves, and for example, during the day you have more builds than the night and the weekends, and you would like to save money and stuff like that. Doing it manual is super, like disabling Jenkins slaves for the weekend manual is super bad idea, right? So you have to go, when you come to work on Monday, 9 o'clock, you have to turn them back on, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of solutions you can use. For example, Swarm plugin. You can have Amazon auto scaling group, which will, for example, scale during the day, and we will spawn new Jenkins instances and scale down during the nights and during the weekends, for example, where you don't need too many slaves, and you can save a lot of money. There's Amazon EC2 plugin. Jenkins master can spawn its own instances on EC2. For example, when it requires new resources. There's awesome Docker plugin. So if you are using Docker in your company, for example, you have some Mesos cluster or Kubernetes cluster or whatever, you can use Docker plugin for that. And we can simply have SSH slaves, which is like super good old way to managing slaves by Jenkins. You can also automate it with your configuration management tools. Okay, so I was talking about those continuous delivery in Jenkins. Anybody using continuous delivery in their companies using on Jenkins? Awesome. Do you use this old Jenkins plugin for continuous delivery? Okay. Okay, so so let's quickly recap what is this continuous delivery about. So it's like, basically, it's a clearly defined way how we deploy the code from the repository, how we put our code into working production, right? So it's like we can think about this as like a set of steps which are arranged in pipeline, right? And that's why this delivery pipeline. And when it goes about Jenkins 1.x, as I told before, it's not a first-class citizens in Jenkins 1. This is just a bunch of jobs triggered, which like one job triggers another job, and another job triggers another job, and it can break very easily. It's very fragile. There was delivery pipeline plugin, build flow plugin, build pipeline plugin, and other plugins to visualize those build pipeline plugins and to help you to create those. But it's not easy, and it's not a unified way to set up, and it's super hard to maintain. We had an application which has like 40 steps in the pipeline, and changing this pipeline was like it was impossible to change this pipeline. It's like it's required like 2 days of man work to change anything in this pipeline, test it. So what we did is we created a custom framework for creating delivery pipelines. It was based on Jenkins Job DSL. So we had one standardized way for continuous delivery for all our services inside the company. So we reused it in all projects. For example, one team was creating a new microservice. They had to use our project for delivery pipeline. They could modify it, but the base was the same for all the projects. We use Ansible for our infrastructure management, and we use Rundeck for deployments. Underneath, we use Ansible for deploying all the applications production as well. And we made it open source. So after you see my presentation, you can click those links. There is a Jenkins Pipeline DSL GitHub repository, which is a core library for this case study. And there's a sample Jenkins microservice pipeline implementation, which I will show on a demo next. Okay, so I was talking a lot. So let's see some real stuff. 1 second, I will switch my screen. If you have any questions in the meantime, just shoot. Okay. So, thank you. So what we have here, I cheated a bit because there's a Jenkins instance running. I created it before because last time I was doing the demo, it took forever to download JDK. So I have Jenkins instance running. It's empty Jenkins instance with configured admin user and stuff like that and credentials. So let me create a seed job. Now we'll run Ansible code, which will, I uncommented one line, which will create the seed job. Everything should be installed before, just to save time and don't download. We shouldn't download half of the internet during the presentation. OK. So after running the code, Ansible code, we have one job. It's called job DSL seed. If you run this job, we can go to console output. As you can see, it's taking my code from GitHub. We are running some tests. We are running build. And we are creating all the jobs. So the jobs succeed. If we go back to main screen of Jenkins, maybe I will zoom out a bit. So I've created so many jobs, like less than 2 seconds, right? So if you go, this is the simple microservice pipeline, which is based on the library we released as open source. So for example, we have brewery microservices. It's like for a microservice hackathon, we are making brewery. So we have, those are Polish names, I guess, sometimes. So it can be, yeah, aggregator, butelkator, dojrzewator, representator. I will not explain what does it mean. So basically, we created all the pipelines for all our, we had 4 microservices in this hackathon. And one team had one country. So for example, we had Polish brewery, Lithuanian brewery, and stuff like that. And every team had to implement 4 microservices. So for every team, we had delivery pipelines like that. So we were able to create those pipelines in a matter of like less than 10 seconds. So yeah, we created all those pipelines like that. So you can see all the jobs. So we have build stage, run smoke and rollback test, deploy to prod, and automatic rollback if something happened, something wrong happened. Yeah. Any questions so far, maybe regarding this one? Yeah. So okay. That was done for, it's open source. You can find it on GitHub. I believe my presentation will be published by organizers, so go to presentations or just email me or on Twitter or whatever. I will give you links. Okay, so I was also talking about this Jenkins pipeline plugin. It's super awesome plugin as well. I got a job here, test pipeline. Oops. It was created using Ansible as well, of course. When we go to configuration, the job configuration is like, you don't have to put anything. This is, we're having the pipeline script from SCM. We are specifying that we want to use Git, and we put simple URL here. That's all. Jenkins will go to the repository. It will download the Jenkins file and create all the whole pipeline, delivery pipeline, using this definition. So if we go to this test pipeline and we click build now, if you can see that we have super nice eye-catchy visualization. I prefer this one than to the previous one, to be honest. So you have super simple pipeline, which does some stuff, mostly steps. So let's run this pipeline, and I will show you in the meantime how this definition looks of pipeline. So we have simple Java project here with this Jenkins file I pointed to put on Jenkins. And how the definition looks. We have stages, stage def. So basically it's this stage def. This is the stage definition. We are doing checkout, we are running Maven. On stage QA, we are running some tests in parallel. So you can run tests in parallel. On staging, we are running something. On staging, we also ask for input message. For example, if you have delivery pipeline and you have to ask a developer, do you really want to go to production with this artifact? And that you can go to the Jenkins and click yes, I want. And we have production. You can also use Groovy in this pipeline. It's not so extensible as Jenkins DSO, but still you can use Groovy here. OK, so we have this in progress. It's logging. OK, so does staging look good? Yeah, let's proceed to production. And we are on production using few lines of code. We created new fancy looking delivery pipeline, which you can put on your radiator in the office and monitor your deployments all the time. It's super easy and super clean, and the pipeline definition lives with your code. So basically, if you change your code, you can easily change your pipeline. OK, any questions so far? So there's a project ongoing in Jenkins CI, which is super awesome project called Blue Ocean. Anyone heard about Blue Ocean project? So basically, there's an idea to totally redesign and redefine the UI and UX of Jenkins. So it will be a super eye candy and super Travis-looking UI. So basically, this is the Blue Ocean plugin. You can install this on your Jenkins instance. It's in beta right now, but you can use it. And yeah, for example, this is the pipeline. We have test pipeline. And when we click pipeline, we have super nice visualization of pipelines. You can click for every step. So for example, general SCM was doing this. Shell script was doing this. No more consoles, like for thousands of lines and scrolling through them. Everything is divided into steps. So basically, we can run the pipeline again. You can see changes in the node artifacts. So let's run the pipeline again. Is it running? It's in beta stage, so no, it's not running.
When it's planned to be released?
I have no idea. OK, it's running. So you can put this on your screen in the office and check out how your delivery pipeline looks like. So in every step, we have like super nice visualization. We have time elapsed for pipeline. Yeah, let's it sleep for 30 seconds. You can click this step. Those tests are in parallel. That's why they are visualized in parallel. It's no way to visualize like that in all Jenkins. So basically, they are redefining all the UI and all the UX of Jenkins. You may notice in Jenkins 2.x that they changed the backgrounds a bit and those configuration blocks when you configure a job. So this is also the part of ongoing changes in Jenkins. It's getting better and better with every release. If you want to get involved, I think that you can go on GitHub and create a pull request or create a task or issue, sign up for mailing list and ask for features or whatever. Suggest something. Is it going or not? OK, so we have staging. They are asking something. There are no steps. It's a beta, so let's click it. Maybe it's, yeah, something strong. Okay, it was a beta, so. Okay. So let's go to the summary. So automation is good for you. Like I like to automate everything, but be careful with automation. I don't know if have you seen this XKCD comic about automation and like how much time it takes for you to do something and should you automate or not. It's really nice comic and I use it in real life sometimes. Jenkins Job DSL is great, and together with all the infrastructure tools I mentioned, whatever you use in your infrastructure, it's like a match made in heaven. You can have your Jenkins infrastructure easily scalable, easily you can recover from outage and so on and so forth. Delivery pipelines are the first-class citizens in Jenkins 2.x. So if you're starting with continuous delivery in your company and you want to use Jenkins, go with Jenkins pipeline. It would be my guess. I would go with Jenkins pipeline to create pipelines. And UI and UX and all the visualizations are getting better and better with every release of Jenkins. OK, that's all I got for you. Any questions? Yep.
Is it possible to use this job DSL and this new pipeline
Yes.
in parallel?
Yes, of course. It's no problem whatsoever. So basically, you can even create those new pipelines jobs using your job DSL. So in previous company, we had it wasn't Jenkins pipeline was not out there yet. So for example, we had Jenkins job DSL job, which were scanning all the Git repositories in our company and was looking for some kind of predefined file in every repository called like .jenkins.yaml. And if it found that file there, it took the Jenkins definition from that file and created the whole pipeline on Jenkins instance. So we had this Jenkins file before Jenkins file, but it was kind of different Jenkins file. But yeah, you can use those in parallel, no problem whatsoever. Any more questions? Nope. So I hope that you will use Jenkins in your daily jobs. And yeah, thank you very much. There's a contact for me if you want to ask any questions. Just drop me an email or catch me on Twitter or on ears. And as I said, we are hiring. Go to joinuber.com. We have an office in Vilnius. If you want to join us, just let me know as well. Thank you.